You know, the world of Harry Potter, it feels so real, doesn't it? We all know the spells, we've grown up with the characters, the story is just iconic. But what if I told you that some of the most unbelievable parts of this whole universe, they're not magic at all? That's what we're doing today. We're diving into the behind-the-scenes facts that sound completely fake, but are 100% true. You see, the real magic of Harry Potter, it's not just about the wands and the spells. Nope. It's actually hidden in the incredible and sometimes kind of unbelievable reality of how these films were actually made. All right, so let's start with the big one, the most iconic location of all, Hogwarts. Now, you probably think it's mostly digital wizardry, right? Just a bunch of fancy computer graphics. Well, the truth is a whole lot more solid than that. Okay, sure, CGI was used for those big, sweeping shots of the outside of the castle, but get this, a massive, life-size chunk of Hogwarts was physically built in England. We're talking huge and so complex that, you know those scenes where the young actors look totally lost in the hallways? Yeah, a lot of the time they weren't even acting. The set was a real-life maze. I mean, the scale of this whole thing is just mind-boggling. They built a full-sized Great Hall, complete with actual stone floors, and the classrooms, like for potions or defense against the dark arts, those weren't just flimsy backdrops. No, they were complete, totally functional sets. It was a world you could literally just walk through and touch. Incredible. And you know those crazy moving staircases at Hogwarts? To capture that signature chaos, the crew didn't just rely on digital tricks. Oh no. They physically built 140 of them. 140. Some are even put on these giant rotating platforms that could actually shift and rearrange during filming. They were creating that magical confusion in real time. And it wasn't just the architecture either. Let's go back to the Great Hall for a second. Think about one of its most magical features, those thousands of floating candles. Okay, surely those had to be CGI, right? Well, think again. So this is a perfect example of what we call a practical effect. For the very first film, the crew painstakingly hung thousands of real, actual, lit candles from the ceiling, each on its own little wire. I mean, can you imagine the work? It was a massive effort for just a few moments of screen time. But that warm, authentic glow you see on screen, yeah, that was 100% real. Okay, so this incredible attention to detail didn't just stop with the sets. It extended to the actors, too. Behind their famous characters are some equally surprising and, very human stories. More than 80. That's the number of wands Daniel Radcliffe, yeah, the boy who lived himself, broke while they were filming the series. So what was going on? Was he just practicing his dueling spells a little too hard? The truth is actually way funnier. Turns out he had a habit of using his prop wands as drumsticks. On tables, on chairs, pretty much any surface he could find when he got bored. The prop department was constantly having to make new ones just to keep up with him. A little touch of rock and roll in the wizarding world, I guess. But, not all the stories were quite that lighthearted. During the filming of Goblet of Fire, Emma Watson was really feeling the immense pressure of global fame. She was stressed, she was exhausted, and she seriously thought about quitting the role of Hermione and just leaving the whole franchise behind. It's really hard to imagine, but we came this close to having a different Hermione for the last few films. Now, the human actors weren't the only ones with surprising stories. Their non-human co-stars, the magical creatures of the wizarding world, they have their own secrets too. And trust me, they are definitely not what you'd expect. Okay, remember the basilisk from Chamber of Secrets? Absolutely terrifying, right? Pure nightmare fuel, this monstrous serpent that can kill you with a single look. Well, in reality, the creature was actually a mix of animatronics and a very real and very gentle trained python. So yeah, Daniel Radcliffe was never in any real danger. Just think about that for a second. While Harry's over here acting for his life, his scene partner was just calmly doing its job. In fact, the snake's handler actually called it one of the most well-behaved animals on set. Goes to show you, looks can be pretty deceiving, huh? But hey, if you think the snake had it good, oh man, let's talk about Ron Weasley's kinda gross pet rat, Scabbers. He may have looked all scruffy and pathetic on screen, but behind the scenes, that rat was living the high life. I'm not kidding. The multiple rats who played Scabbers were treated like total A-list celebrities. They had personal trainers for a rat. They had strict work schedules, their own private resting areas, and, yes, they even got a salary. And get this, one of the rats who played Scabbers actually had more screen time than some of the human actors in the movies. How wild is that?
All right, but the magic wasn't just confined to the movie sets themselves. The influence of Harry Potter has reached some truly unexpected places.
And this might be one of my favorite facts of all time. NASA, and yes, I mean that NASA, once used John Williams' iconic Hedwig's theme as a wake-up call for astronauts on a space shuttle. Can you just imagine floating in orbit and waking up to the sound of Hogwarts? I mean, that is a truly out-of-this-world legacy. But maybe the most powerful piece of magic wasn't a practical effect, or even a cultural moment like that. No, it was something woven into the very fabric of the story by J.K. Rowling right from the very beginning. Seriously, this is just pure storytelling genius. Think about it. Objects that seemed like throwaway details in the first book, a locket, an old diary, a ring, they were actually critical pieces of a giant puzzle. J.K. Rowling planted these clues years in advance, only revealing their true, universe-shattering importance in the final book. That is an incredible feat of planning. So, when you really look at it, the magic we feel from this world, it isn't just about the spells. It's about the passion of the actors, the incredible craftsmanship of the people who built the sets, and the genius foresight of the author. The real magic, the whole time, was the human dedication behind every single detail. Which really just leaves one last question for you. Now that you know the reality behind the illusion, the real staircases, the friendly monsters, the secret stories of the actors, does that take away any of the magic? Or does it, maybe, just maybe, make it all feel even more real?